Hi, and welcome to this AI and C# video on the news from Build 2026 that is running here in June. I'm doing a small series on various topics, and in this case, we are looking at the hardware they announced during the build. So they announced three things when it comes to hardware, or related to hardware at least. The first thing was they announced a Surface Laptop Ultra. And this is running the new chips that have been announced by NVIDIA recently. So NVIDIA is going into the CPU game, not only the graphics cards and the cloud infrastructure, but actually making a kind of CPU very much in the same manner as the M series from Apple, it seems like, because it's all on one chip and unified memory and such things. And it seems like to be a beast, 128 gigabytes of unified memory on these chips. And as a companion, if you don't want it as a laptop, they also make a Spark Dev Box, as they call it, which is a kind of funky design. Underneath here is actually the real engine, so it's a little like a overgrown Mac Mini, it seems. It has exactly the same specs as a laptop, so it's probably the same chip inside, but if you need it as a desktop with more ports and stuff like that. These two they don't give any pricing or availability other than fall this year. I think they will be very expensive, but if not, or if there's a less memory in some of the variants, it could perhaps be my next laptop, because I need one quite soon again. But time will tell. They also did something new. They did something called Project Solara. And this is as such not hardware, but instead hardware related, in that it's a kind of not operating system, but because they sound like they want to run on top of Android, but something that completely takes over a device and is AI native, AI first, where it has integrations into the Microsoft ecosystem of AI, Entra ID, Microsoft Foundry, and so on, Microsoft Teams. And they showed two concepts, one being a small desktop device that you could hook up your Teams and get your calendar and stuff like that, but AI specific, so you could talk to it. And they also showed a badge, like you have a badge when you go into big corporations, where it was actually a badge that had scanners in. They mentioned healthcare, that they could scan medical, medicine, and patients' ID records and stuff like that. So this is probably a big enterprise deal that we probably can't do too much about. They said it was a kind of open-ended platform where we could decide our own models and things, but it's quite early, and in their concept arts they also showed glasses, watches, and all kinds of things. So it's not just for these two form factors, but any kind of form factor. So it's probably for the big enterprises that need to have a purpose-built device for them, and then can put this on, so they don't need to do the software as well. So that was everything that was announced around hardware.